What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden, and welcome back to another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly. Today, well, I guess you could say, unfortunately, last week we did not even have a Chicago Bulls Weekly, purely based on the fact that I was ill at the time. I'm not so ill anymore, so we get to discuss a Chicago Bulls Weekly. We get to continue the weekly, I guess, episodes where we discuss the previous week and we look forward to the upcoming week while giving some awards, I guess. And yeah, ultimately just discuss what went wrong, because it was a pretty bad week for the Bulls, if I do say so myself. But before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls, their games, as well as what do you expect from the Chicago Bulls in the upcoming week that we have to come. New week, we need to really dig ourselves out of a hole, in my opinion, on the defensive end. It has to start now against the Wizards. But with that being said, we had 5 games. So it was a very full-on week for the Bulls, in all fairness. 5 games that the Chicago Bulls played, and I think we ended up going 2-3 overall. So you might look at that record, the 2-3 record, and say, you know what? That's not so bad. And maybe in the grand scheme of things, it is not so bad. I think the record in itself is not so bad. But it's just the way that we lost the games. It's just the way that even in the games that we did win, we just suck defensively. And it gets so tired. I'm so tired of frustrated of talking about it. But it feels like everywhere we turn, that is the thing that's slapping us in the face at the moment. So that's where we need to really dig our heels in and try to figure out what's going wrong with the Bulls. But it all started against the Houston Rockets, and we lost this game 143-107. I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory. Keep in mind, the previous game against the Cavs, we recently dropped 100. They dropped 144 points on us. So 2 back-to-back games where we conceded, I guess you could say, 140 points in a game. And that is outrageous, ladies and gentlemen. And that, to me, was the start of a very frustrating week. And it kind of continues. We did kind of redeem ourselves against the Pistons. We won this game 122-112. 120-12 is not a bad scoreline to give up. I would say that's borderline league average in many ways. But at the end of the day, still had my worries defensively, and I think on a different day, the Pistons would have been able to score more. Thankfully, we don't have to talk about a different day at the moment. We'll take what we can get. But it didn't really continue, or nothing really carried over. No momentum was carried over from that game, because when we faced the Milwaukee Bucks, we lost 122-106. Again, giving up 120 plus points in a game is always a sign of disaster. We did recently beat the Bucks at the beginning of the season, and they got their lick of revenge against the Chicago Bulls, and it was Giannis' show as he almost got a triple-double in that game, a 40-plus points triple-double in this game, close to it. So, yeah, that was definitely one we weren't going to come back from with Giannis playing like that. And then, obviously, the next game, the NBA Cup game, we've won our first NBA Cup game, ladies and gentlemen. It was against the Atlanta Hawks. We won this game 136-122. Now, we conceded 122 points in a game again. In all fairness, in an NBA Cup, point differential did matter, so Atlanta played their starting lineup to the very end, as did the Chicago Bulls. So the scoreline, in my opinion, is a little bit... It doesn't necessarily represent how the game went. We were dominant in the game. I think we were easily the better team the entire way, and I have my big questions about Atlanta and their future. With all that being said, though, we were the better team. We deserved to win. It was definitely a fun game to watch, but it's still concerning the amount of points that we're giving up. And then obviously when you face the Memphis Grizzlies and you give up an extra 20 plus points in that game, it was 142-131 in which we lost, then you begin to ask the same questions. How are the Bulls continuing to fall on the defensive end? Why do they continue to concede points? And where's that personal pride that I was talking about in the game reaction? All these things played a big factor in the week, in my opinion. I feel like there's no personal pride in stopping guys on the defensive end, and that has to be addressed more than anything. So yeah, quite a frustrating week. Look, we dropped 131 points against Memphis, so it wasn't like we got blown out of the water or anything like that. It was a really fun offensive game to watch, but as a Bulls fan that cares deeply about where this team goes, I can't just look at one side of the ball and enjoy that. I have to look at the other side as well and critique it, and that's exactly what I'm doing throughout the entire Bulls Weekly, throughout the game reactions. It's just so frustrating to watch. So with that being said, it's time to give my awards. My must improve of the week, my defensive player of the week, my sixth man of the week, and my player of the week. And I think these are a little bit more difficult to kind of decipher, if you know what I mean. Just because I really wasn't impressed with the Bulls this week, even in the 2-3 record, I find it hard to give these awards. So if you're going to say I'm copping out, then I'm copping out. But there's a couple of awards I'm not going to give. Or actually, we'll start off with the award that I am going to give. The must improve of the week goes to the entire team. At the end of the day, I said this before and I'll say it again, I can't specifically critique one guy and critique their defense, when in reality, it's a whole team problem that we're facing on the defensive end. Maybe we don't have the talent to play defense, but we sure do need the effort. And when you're losing both of those things, it's a natural sign of disaster, and I think there's a lot of players that are not pulling their weight on the defensive ends, and that has to be addressed more than anything. Whether we work hard or whether we don't work hard, people are not pulling their weight. That has to be addressed. So everybody gets the Must Improve award. I'm being deadly serious. And we're going to move on to the award I'm not going to give, and that's the Defensive Player of the Week. Now look, I'm sure you can muster up one player that played really good defense this week. And if you can, and if you want to, that's fine. I don't want to, nor can I do it. So I'm not going to do it. I don't feel like anyone on this team deserves a Defensive Player of the Week award. Until we can actually get to off that bottom barrel of the league defensively, why should anyone on this team get a Defensive Player of the Week award? Why should anyone deserve it? Why should anyone get stood out amongst the rest? Unless there's a massively standout guy, I feel like there is no need to give an award like this. So I'm not going to. Hate me all you want. You can disagree with me all you want. That is fine. That is up to you. You do you. Enjoy the things that you do. I'm making the video, and I'm going to say no Defensive Player of the Week today. If you have a Defensive Player of the Week in mind, feel free to let me know in the comments. We can have a discussion there if need be. Moving on to the Sixth Man of the Week. This is quite difficult as well, because I feel like in certain games, guys stepped up. For example, Matas Buzelis had a 14-point game in his last time out, I believe. While also guys like Jalen Smith had a couple of good games. Dalen Terry had a couple of good games. So it was kind of a mix and match of things. And look, my go-to is usually Ayo, but Ayo actually started quite a bit of games. So I'm going to stick with the guy that I think has had decent games for the Chicago Bulls. Maybe I'm wrong with this one. Maybe I'm right. I'm going to pick Jalen Smith just because I felt like there were a couple of games where he really showed what he's all about athletically in the paint, at least on the offensive end. He was able to make some threes in there, making some good contributions off the bench. But again, I think that could go to almost anybody on this bench. I think everybody at some point this week, and it's difficult with 5 games, at some point this week had a standout, and that's kind of where I'm addressing my mind at the moment. And my player of the week, as difficult as this may be to give as well, I am going to give it to Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine has been an unbelievable scorer for the Bulls over the past week. Even in games where we have struggled, he has been the guy that kind of broke us out of that struggle, or he is the guy that stood out amongst the rest. Nikola Vucevic had a solid week. I think from time to time, guys like Josh Giddey and Kobe White show what they're all about, even Ayo as well. But at the end of the day, I think Zach LaVine has been the most consistent this week. I know that's not saying much because we're just the most inconsistent team out there at the moment. But yeah, I would say Zach LaVine is my player of the week. But again, when we're playing as bad of defense as we are, is it really as simple as giving one player of the week to one player? I'm not too sure. Let's take a look at what we have to look forward to. So, in about a day's time, we get our second, or hopefully we could get our second NBA Cup victory as we face the Washington Wizards. This one will be away from home, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not necessarily sure how the Wizards are doing at the moment, but all I hope is that the Bulls can muster up enough strength to win this game, because the NBA Cup is a very important cup to be in, and I wouldn't say I want to go all the way, because I don't think we can do that, but I want to go as far as possible. Then we have a second game against the Orlando Magic. We versed them recently. We did beat them recently as well. That was, again, probably our best defensive game we have seen. Let's hope we can have a similar outcome in this time out. And then our last game, only 3 games to look forward to today. It was against the Boston Celtics. This one is at home. It's in the NBA Cup as well. Boston is obviously the biggest threat in our group. So that is a game that I feel like if we could win that game, that's going to be huge towards the outcome of us progressing in the tournament. But at the end of the day, Boston is a team that always scares me. They're the NBA champions. So we'll see how that one fares. With that being said, what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.